DRPAK here in the medical center of Michigan, Detroit, here with fellow real doctor, medical advice only, Dr. Mike, PhD. How are you?
I know legally I'm not a medical doctor, but I sure feel like one. And I feel even more expert than a typical medical doctor. Just call me Dr. Mike MD from now on, like House.
We have you back on the channel to talk about 2 underrated and 2 overrated principles for muscle growth.
I think overload as a principle is overrated. Here's why I think it's overrated. Because overrated, underrated does not exist in a vacuum. It exists in an analysis of all the people that ever support or are neutral towards or denigrate some position. Do you think the average number of people are sitting in that right box of no, neutral, yes? And if you think way too many people are sitting in the yes box for bad reasons, you can still take something that's insanely high level quality and very important, like the overload principle, and still conclude that it is overrated. Why? Why is it overrated? Because everyone and their mom raps about how fucking hard training, bro, and you gotta fucking go hard. It's all about effort, man. And there's like 2 groups of these people generally. People that don't train hard enough and are just trying to psych themselves up to believing they're a hard trainer. And like old timers that are like 60 or some shit, and they like to think that back in the day everyone trained hard. That's why everyone was bigger in the 80s. No, they weren't. And now everyone's a pussy in this dumb degenerate culture where all these people with the new genders, blah blah, circling the drain. And people really like to pat themselves on the back for observing that no one trains hard. But in reality, most people don't have a hard training problem. They have a consistency problem. Yeah, training hard is important, but it's not even the most important thing about training. Showing up is more important.
The majority of people haven't made gains or feel like they haven't made enough gains. Okay, obviously you can take the edge case of the guy that goes to the gym and half-asses things to the maximum, but if you're consuming this type of content, I'm pretty sure you're aware that, hey, those sets have to look hard, even if they're not to failure, and even if they're like 3 to 4 reps in reserve, if you consistently show up for 10 years, 10, 15 years, it's very unlikely that you're not going to see amazing results.
You're going to get great gains. My archetype for the person that overvalues overload is like a 16-year-old at the gym who does everything to eccentric failure and screaming and still thinks he needs more Ronnie Coleman memes to go even harder. The marginal yield on uncovering how much harder you can go is now negative, causes way more fatigue than it does gains, more injury risk than it does gains, more teaching you how to use poor technique than good technique. And so it's just you're over-indexing on it way too much. But most people aren't doing that because it's an intellectual exercise for them. A lot about being a younger person and maturing into your 20s is to see how hard you can really push yourself deep down. And the overload quest becomes a vision quest journey as opposed to a, this is my best reasonable take. I've had many opportunities in my life to really try hard. And so now in bodybuilding, I don't try that hard and I get really, really awesome gains, better gains than when I was trying too hard. So that's kind of what I think about that.
What other principles would you say? One more.
In a certain sense, specificity. And by that I mean a very specific example. People think that the difference between high bar squat, leg press, and hack squat is going to be some kind of completely revelatory thing. People believe in the sort of lifting changes from replacing exercises from one specific variant to another that I would catalog as like quantum effects, not a graded exposure, but a jump. Like your quads were roughly this big when you were leg pressing. And then we can see the electrons get to their new orbital when you do hack squat, and now you're here. It's just not how it works. If you go through a mostly full range of motion, applying lots of tension at the stretched position or the lengthened position, go close to failure and accrue enough volume to get really tired and do it again a few days later, the difference between how much your legs will grow with squatting versus leg pressing versus hack squatting, for example, is in a conversation about several percentage points versus total undetectability. It is not a conversation about, I used to have a small back, I started doing machine rows. My shit just fucking blew up. If you read comments a lot, which I recommend no one does unless they're trying to go insane on purpose,
Indeed.
you're going to read a lot of very well upvoted comments about how someone replaced something with something else and they got great gains. But you have to understand that most people don't look at comments. Most people don't comment. Most people don't read comments. Most people don't vote on comments. And almost no one actually comments themselves. And so precisely the people that are outliers are attracted to that sort of thing. And you'll say in a video, leg press and hack squat, similar gains. Here's how you understand the nuance. And someone will say, like, when I started hack squatting after leg pressing for years, my quads blew up and get 20 upvotes. And you'll see that. Some people read the comments and they'll go, well, look, Pack and Mike, they say that, like, apparently it doesn't matter much. But there's so many people on the internet saying it's huge difference. Maybe for me, it'll be huge. And you know what? Maybe it will. But everything that we do as humans is laden in the sphere of probabilities. Is it a very high probability that your hack squat is just going to revolutionize your legs? No. Why is that a problem? One thing I do not like to see in this world is lost hope. So I don't generally experience much hope. I don't inculcate hope in my emotional bandwidth because I think it's a fucking waste of time. The other way I understand hope is irrationally setting yourself up for disappointment or irrational happiness. But I hate to have people hope that this new exercise they try, ultra specific exercise, is going to get them big gains. Whereas if it's generally similar to others, it's probably going to be similar gains. Maybe a bit better, and maybe that's good. But if you're waiting and hoping for these radical transformations to occur and they don't, that sucks. Maybe you would just never hope for it to begin with, applied yourself very well, and you would have gotten gains over time.
Yeah, that's a huge thing people miss. One, you know nothing about that person commenting.
Yeah.
Two, how did
be a person?
How did they really assess the differences between one or the other?
Oh, yeah.
And most importantly, assuming that that person is telling the truth and they've done, let's say, some meticulous sort of tracking or whatever, which they haven't, what about time? They, just because they changed an exercise, the fact that they saw more gains could be because they also trained for an extra year.
Yes.
Or two.
Or they're not accounting, another one real quick, Pack, is they're not accounting for confounding variables.
Yeah.
The same time you switch to hack squat is because your gym didn't have a leg press because you moved to a new location. But you moved to that location, and instead of having like some jobs where you're kind of in between where cash was tight, you moved to that new location, you got promotion at your job, you're doing really well, you got a girl, you got a dog, and your life is really serene. You're sleeping 7 or 8, 9 hours a night, and all those things reduce your stress so much that you have a good appetite, you sleep well, you gain 10 pounds, and you're hack squatting like a madman. All of a sudden your legs are huge, and you're like, hack squat. That's what did it. And when you think about it, what other things changed when you tried a new thing? You can't even keep track of all of them. There's some you don't know changed. And so going off of anecdotal reports, we should use them as hints of interest and never like, see, this guy said it, that's how it worked. That's nice.
100%. What about two underrated principles?
I think variation is underrated. I could easily have said it was overrated because by many people it is. Variation can be seen and understood in a lot of ways, but in hypertrophy training, I tend to think of it most commonly as deletion and replacement of exercises or deletion and replacement of rep ranges and modalities. Do I do myo reps? Do I do drop sets? Do I do supersets? Do I do sets of 5 to 10 or sets of 20 to 25? Do I use the leg press or do I use the hack squat? And variation gives us this really, really cool understanding. It tells us that there are probably something like 3 to 10 really good exercises and rep range combos you can use for any one muscle after you've learned your body a long time. And that each one of them starts out great, but over several months develops staleness, and so you get a little tired of it. Joints feel a little creaky, not as good of pumps. And then you replace it with another one that you haven't been using that's on the back burner. And when you learn to do that, you have essentially boundless variation, because by the time you get to an old exercise, it's been 18 months and your body basically just doesn't remember it. Like, don't try this at home, but if you've been doing a lot of barbell lunges, skip 6 months of lunges and then do 3 sets of lunges. You won't get through 3 because your glutes will cramp on set number 2 and you'll fall over it. And you'll get DOMs for 6 fucking days. You're like, holy shit. What variation properly allows us to do is to avoid wear and tear injuries or really reduce their frequency. If you're doing some different exercises every few months, It's hard to the same shit over and over because people say, oh man, my knees hurt when I squat. Like, try leg pressing. And they're like, but I have to squat. Like, power lifter? Like, no. Weightlifter? No. Athlete? Are bodybuilders athletes? No. Then no. It also allows you to never really get stale psychologically in the gym because you always have something new every few months. Also, because it's just every few months, it allows you to really build your strength and your competence and get momentum on those movements and aggregate a lot of gains and watch your gains occur. And it allows you to never run out of that variation. It also will prevent you from asking the question of what's the best XYZ? What's the best movement for chest? What's your favorite food versus what is a food you can eat every day of your life until you die? There might not be a food like that. Well, I could eat that food, but would I want to? No, it's a chore at some point, even if it's your favorite. And so a proper understanding of variation, that there are best effect candidate exercises, high stimulus to fatigue ratio, there's maybe about 5 of them for everyone, eschews our need to even broach the subject of what's your favorite. Say, well, I have like 5 movements that I really like. That's a good answer.
Yeah, and on the point of stallness, especially as you become more and more advanced, phasing in new exercises, in my opinion, can allow you to get this sort of pseudo, maybe not fully pseudo, but somewhat pseudo feeling of amazing progress because it's a new movement, it's a new exercise.
It's nice.
Keeps things interesting, and also spitting.
Sure.
Placebos you into feeling like, oh, things are happening and I like this.
Yeah.
You know, after a certain point, and we have long-term data on powerlifters, for example, where we've looked at years and years of competitions over 10 years. Powerlifters who are focused on strength and their whole training revolves around getting as strong as possible in those 3 movements. First year of participation in powerlifting, 6 to 12% above baseline gains. Over the next 10 years or so, the same, but over 10 years. So if you are forcing the 2 exercises for your chest for your whole life, it's very likely that performance will stall at some point. And that may not mean you're not making gains per se. If your hobby is to lift weights and you also have a life out of the gym, going in and doing the same sort of weight and seeing the same number and maybe plus or minus a rep or 5 pounds, that's not that fun, in my opinion.
Another thing that we're on the subject for variation is we now know that regional hypertrophy is a thing. You can grow parts of your muscles. And if you do a lot of different kinds of rowing and pull downs and stuff over the years, you'll get really complete development. Whereas if you just stick to a few movements, you might get great development, but not quite complete. So there are gains left on the table for many of the exercises that are great that you haven't been doing just because you seem to be a stickler and saying variation is overrated.
Last but not least,
phase potentiation is a principle of training, and nutritional phase potentiation can be really helpful. The state of the evidence on what body fat is optimal to bulk through puts it anywhere between 10 and 30% for males. And we know with good reason that anything between 15 and 25% is going to be probably pretty similar as far as the P ratio, how much muscle versus fat you gain. But there are practical considerations, health considerations, and performance considerations that layer in that, which say that much over 25, even 20% body fat for some people is going to be suboptimal. Your cardio is going to be a limiting factor for training legs and back and stuff like that, which means you don't get your best gains because your muscles aren't the limiting factor anymore. Your health might not be ideal, and good health is a foundation for good physique, not so negotiable. Just taking those 2 things, we're well on our way to like, okay, maybe we should be leaner. But the third thing is how you look and feel. And like right now, your chest sticks about 5 inches in front of your gut, which is impressive. But if your gut stuck 3 inches in front of your chest, like mine does, you might not be feeling your swag a lot at the gym, and the original passion for getting jacked kind of goes away. Because somewhere on the way to jacked, when you get fat and jacked enough, you're mostly just, you look fat, and it kind of sucks. So for me, phase potentiation and nutrition means you create runway for your gains by getting lean. We're not trying to get lean because there's something magical down there, some P ratio we're trying to find. We're just trying to get to somewhere between 10 to 20, maybe something like 10 to 15% body fat. And once you get down there, it might take a little while. Once you get down there, you slowly bulk up and you come back down. Slowly bulk up and you come back down. But the amount of bulking you can do if you gain half a pound per week from being 13% fat all the way to 20, what the fuck? fucking months of bulking consistently, slowly. And the entire time, you're not a fat piece of shit. You have some veins, you have some details, you got a little muscle shape. You're healthy. Training is awesome. Your cardio is great. So by getting leaner, you give yourself runway to do an amazing muscle gain phase. And then when you get a little too fat, a little too sloppy, whatever, you go through another maybe mini cut, maybe some kind of longer cut situation, 8 to 12 weeks. You strip all the fat off that you got on. You see what you've built quite literally, and you feel amazing now when you feel super lean and you're like, man, my appetite's up. Because guys will be like at 22% body fat and be like, I can't bulk anymore. I can't fucking eat any more food. Well, no shit, at 22%, your body's like, please, you're fucking squashing me with all these nutrients. You get back to 12%, you're going to want to be eating. And then you can engage that hypercaloric daily 300 calorie surplus to go. And then you'll be jacked. And at the end of that process, not so fat that you're questioning why the hell you started lifting in the first place.
There's not a lot of guys, at least anecdotally from my own observation, that get into the lifting for aesthetics and building a physique and bodybuilding that will be super pleased with how they look after above a certain percentage. You've not only let your body fat go higher, which may not necessarily be a direct threat to your health, but your habits that went out the window because you're bulking, let's go, bro, now need to be checked again. All of a sudden you need to remind yourself how to not eat whatever you like, and it becomes a much longer process to get that fat off. All right, thank you so much. Guys, don't forget to like, subscribe, buy stuff from both of us. Coaching, clothes, apps.
We got you covered.
We got you covered. Head to toe, literally. And we'll see you guys next time.
Peace.